Section 9.3, there are three formulas for absolute value. What is absolute value? Absolute value is the distance. So the outcome always has to be a positive number. When we say what is the absolute value of -5, this is a symbol for absolute value. It's just two vertical lines on either side of the numbers. What it comes out of the absolute value always has to be positive. Why? Because it's the distance, like 5 feet or 5 miles. And we are using the absolute value in case you want to show the direction. Let's say you want to go from point A to B or from A to C. You know, simple example, let's say you live in San Diego and you have a doctor appointment in 2 different places in opposite directions. Okay, so in that case, we say the distance of A to B is 20 miles. And distance of A to C, we can't say, it's not right to say is -20 because we want to show that these two are in opposite directions. In that case, you say the distance of A to C, its absolute value of -20. Absolute value of -20 is indication that the distance is in opposite directions, but the number that comes out of it, since it's a distance, it has to be positive. So anytime you have a negative number inside of the absolute value and you want to pull it out, it has to be positive. So what is absolute value of like -10 is 10. If it's positive, then you don't have to worry about it. Like, what is absolute value of 10? Just 10. Now, there are 3 formulas. One is for absolute value equations. How do I know the equation is just this equal sign? If you have absolute value of equation, you could change it to 2 separate equations, A equal to B or A equal -B. And if the absolute value is inequality, like if it's less than B, like in this case, then you always put A. A is whatever number or variable you have inside of the absolute value box. You put it between these two. And this is in case absolute value inequality when A is greater than B. So we get to that as we go through the example. So let's practice on this one first, with absolute value equation. See, absolute value of x equal 20, absolute value of u equal to 0, and absolute value of that equal to -6. So the first page is all about absolute value equations. All right. So we write the formula first. We understand that equation is this: absolute value of A is B, so A can be either or of these 2 equations. For instance, solve absolute value of x equal 20. What you have inside of the absolute value is x. So x is 20 and x is -20. Means when you want to solve the absolute value equation, you have up to 2 answers. Up to 2 answers. Like this one. I want to solve this one. Absolute value of u is equal to 0. So u is +0 and -0. But you understand +0 and -0 in either case is always 0. So there's just one answer for this one. Absolute value is -6. We cannot solve this problem, number 3. Why not? Because absolute value has to be positive, not the negative. When you say absolute value is equal to negative number, we can't say -6 miles. So this is not correct. So there is no solution to this one. Absolute value of x minus 1 is equal to 9. So what you have inside of the absolute value, you take that out, you set it equal to 9 and -9. See, to solve the absolute value, you come up with 2 separate equations. Each equation will give you an answer. So you end up having 2 answers. Now, how do I check to see if my answers are correct? Check. I'll take the 10 and substitute here. See, absolute value of 9 is 9. How do I know -8 is the correct answer? So I'll take it and substitute. Absolute value of -9 is 9. So this is a good example and show you how what you have on the other side, it has to be positive and negative, and what you have inside of the absolute value, you got to pull that out. Same thing, this one. See? If you want to pull x minus 22 out, it has to be equal to 5 and -5. And then you solve these problems. It's very similar to number 4. Now, to use the absolute value formula for the equations, absolute value must be alone. You shouldn't have any number next to it. Like in this example, I cannot use the formula till I move 7 to the other side first. I need to do that. So now I can use the formula because see, absolute value is alone equal to 3. So m minus 1 is equal to 3 and -3. So make sure you understand that the absolute value has to be alone in order to use the formula. What if you have two absolute value? In that case, the best way is to just ignore one of these two absolute value, okay? If I have absolute value of A is equal to absolute value of B, just ignore what you have on the other side, just remove the sign. So you just say A is whatever you have inside of this, which is in case 2x minus 7 is equal to positive and negative. Look, see? So you remove this sign. This is like your B value. So this has to be positive and negative. See how you put a negative here and positive and negative. When you put a negative, make sure you put a parenthesis first and then bring the 1 and distribute. See, now you come up with two answers, x equal 3 and x equal minus 19. So in case of two absolute value, see, it doesn't have to be a number here like other. See, this problem is a number. It doesn't have to be. What you have on this side, you get to write it as positive and negative. If it's not number, it's just like something like this, 3x plus 2, you put it at 3x plus 2 and then minus 3x plus 2, okay? It doesn't have to be a number. As long as you understand the formula, that absolute value equal to B, what you have inside of the absolute value, you pull that out, is equal to B or negative. This is very similar to that problem. I guess you could look at the solutions. It's just when you are doing it like this, you end up something which is not true. 11 cannot be equal. So you don't get any value out of this one, but you come up with a value out of second one, minus 7/2. Now, when they ask you to graph, now this is inequality. Okay. Now, when you deal with the inequality, you always have to watch inequality sign. If it's less or equal or less, is this. If it's greater, then you write it like that. Means when inequality symbol is greater, then you deal with two separate inequality. When inequality symbol is less than what you have inside of the absolute value, you put that between B and negative B. Like in this case, see? Absolute value symbol is less. If it's less, according to the formula, if it's less, then A is between B and negative B. See how we put this between 4 and -4 and solve it? Now, when they ask us to graph on the number line, then you graph it. Since there is no equality sign, here is a parenthesis, okay? See? in case there is no equality sign here, if there is no inequality sign, then it's a parenthesis. So let me just graph it here. Bracket when there is equality sign, parentheses when you don't have equality sign. So in this case, you put a parenthesis. Now this one, absolute value symbol, always when you solve the inequality, pay attention to the symbol. Absolute value is greater. When absolute value is greater, when absolute value is great, A is greater than B, when you have this symbol, then it's two separate ones. Just follow the formula. A greater than that, and A is less than minus B. So this is in case two separate section when you graph it. See? It's two separate one, is a union. Because you're dealing with two separate inequalities. See the word or? This is one inequality, and this is a second inequality. You understand that the formula is greater. Why? Because it's the symbol is greater. But remember, like absolute value equations, you cannot use the formula unless you have absolute value alone. So I need to move 3 to the other side first. Now I can deal with this. Absolute value is alone greater than number. If it's absolute value greater, then you are dealing with two separate inequalities, see? And that give you is a union. A is less than minus than third, it's here. And this one is A greater than 2/3. Union is you have all the numbers inclusive. So you have this piece and that piece. So is the final answer is like something like this, like see, you have both pieces. This is for 2/3 and this is for minus 1/3. Because it's union or. Same thing, we have to move 11 to the other side. Now this symbol is less. When it's less, then this is this formula. And it's intersection, so you always have one answer or one piece. The last problem, they're saying that f of x is greater than 45. What is f of x? The whole thing is f of x, right? So that means take this f of x, which is 4 plus absolute value of 7x modified 7 greater than. Now you need to solve this inequality. To solve that inequality, first we get to move 4 to the other side and see is what's the symbol? Greater, so it's or. And then you could follow the solution for that. All right, so the rest is just the solution to all the problems.